Hey, 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 welcome everybody. Hello, Amber. How you doing, hon?
I am great. How are you?
I'm so excited. Oh, I'm excited. We have a great show tonight. I am super excited. But before we get there, we have a whole bunch of people joining us tonight for our show. You want to say
Yes,
hey to everybody?
we have Jeff Evans, first one in the chat.
Hey, Jeff.
We have Heinrich and Schmerber. Silly Pole Place. We have Jeff. Oh, Purple Gang Gang.
Hello, hello.
Purple Gang Gang. And Jordan. Hi, Jordan.
Hello, Jordan.
Darla Ackerman.
Hey, Darla.
Hi. And Curtis Ackerman.
Both the Ackermans are in the house.
Heather McCoy.
Hey, honey.
Rob Zamora. Motu Guru.
Hello.
Benny Torres. Ish.
Hey, Ish.
Stacy Linlin.
Got two Lens.
Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Greg.
Hey, Greg.
J Creations.
Hello.
Crazy Sith. Collectible Fun. Soul Brother number 1. Benny's going to catch us another time.
Okay, Benny. Have a good
And
evening, hon.
a super chat to Kevin. Hi, honey. And Ludwig Rocker.
Awesome. Hello and welcome. We are so excited to have everybody here. You know that we have a big show tonight, and we are super excited about it. First, we want to run through a little bit of the news. Let's add this to the stage. So we have the update from today. Four Horsemen posted. In-stock sale shipping was complete. I think Jeremy said that last night on his show. And then Necronominus is in port. Yay!
I'm so excited.
I know. So now we just have to wait. Jeremy said last night it was flagged, so we have to wait until they do what they need to do so it can get to the warehouse. Graveyard Skeletons are still on the water, and All-Star 6 is in production, and Cosmic Wave 1 is in pre-production. So lots of good news coming there. Super excited about all of those things.
Yes.
Pre-orders, they end this weekend. Get your pre-orders in, guys. It's the book and the Silver Knight version 2. Did you see these, girl?
Oh, beautiful.
Aren't they beautiful? I cannot wait to get these. So many amazing new heads packs to go with the figures that we've already got. So excited about these. That dragon head and tail are to die for. I cannot wait to pick those up, especially, but all of them. And of course, Sherry painted the female head packs. Oh my gosh. What do you think of those?
Oh, they're just perfect. Just like beautiful. Just beautiful.
She's amazing. Thank you, Sherry. If you catch this on the replay, thank you. We love you. We thank you for taking care of us always. Dragon still scheduled for March. Everybody get your is there a betting poll or anything on what the price is going to be? I know everybody's asking. Keep wondering. And then MegaCon is this upcoming weekend, I believe. Is it this coming weekend?
Yep.
I think MegaCon is this upcoming weekend. Amber, you're going to ZoloCon?
Yes, I am.
Are you going to MuskeeCon?
No, we're not going to make MuskeeCon,
Okay.
unfortunately. Our
And
vet bills are a little too high.
oh, I know, you poor guinea pig. How's Brownie doing?
Huh?
How's Brownie doing?
Oh, he's doing well. You
Is he?
know, he's taking his medicine like a champion most days
Yay!
of the days he bites me.
Okay. So Kevin and I are going to MuskeeCon, and I just found out today that we're going to Toylanta.
Ah, yay!
Back to back. It is going to be crazy, crazy.
You're gonna have so much fun.
I know. I cannot wait. So,
Oh,
MuskeeCon.
MegaCon is next weekend.
Yeah. Oh, MegaCon is next weekend. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. So next weekend. We don't have a show next week, so we're going to go ahead and say it's, before the next show anyway. All right. That is all of the news that we have to go over today. We are honored, really, to have with us tonight somebody that I was able to meet for the first time at Legions Con. It was the first time he set up at Legions Con, and it was great to meet him and kind of get to talk to him for a few minutes. And I asked if he wouldn't mind coming on the show so we could get to know him a little better throughout the community. So without further ado, let us welcome Bobby Vala to the chat. Hello, Bobby.
Hello there.
How are you doing?
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, we are so excited. I cannot. Like it's almost a fangirl kind of moment. I've been,
Stop.
Well, it is. But I enjoyed just meeting you and talking to you at Legions Con. It was a great time, and heard a couple of times that you really enjoyed being there. So cannot wait to hear more about that.
Yeah, I had a blast. That was probably one of the most fun shows I'd done in a while. I mean, they're all fun, but that one was just different, and I enjoyed it so much. I'm glad that they wanted to have me back this year. So I'm really excited for November.
Yay! Well, we're excited to have you back.
Thanks.
And a little birdie told me today. This is actually lower in the questions, but I have to ask. A little birdie told me today that you're going to be at IshCon.
Yeah, I didn't know they were making that public yet. Yeah, maybe that little bird was correct. Yeah, I might as well say it. Yeah, I'm going to be at IshCon. Ish was trying to get me to do the show last year, and then I said no initially this year, and then the more I thought about it, and the more people were like, yeah, I'm doing it. And I saw the Horsemen doing it. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing any shows like in the Southeast. So I was like, I can come down to North Carolina. So
yay. Yeah. Well, you're coming to my neck of the woods.
All right.
So we will definitely see you at IshCon this year. But
okay.
I am so excited. That is such a exciting thing. Yay.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Most everything that you do is up in the Northeast, I guess.
Yeah. I did a ton of shows last year. I think I did like 11 or 12 shows, and I felt a little burnt out. And I was like, that's it. I'm doing less shows this year, and I'm only doing shows that are kind of close to me. But it's like, once you don't want to miss out on the cons. They're really fun. So. Yeah. It's like I said, I was only going to do a couple, and then it turned into 5, and now it turned into 6. And I'm sure by the end of it, it'll be like 8 or 10. Yeah.
Well, I am excited that there is at least 2 that I'm going to see you at. Now, Will you be at Toylanta as well?
No. Okay. I have no plans for Toylanta. Okay. But I'll see Amber at ZoloCon.
Oh, yay!
Very excited about that show. And then, I'll see you at Legions and IshCon.
Awesome. Well, that is fantastic. So, yay! Super excited. Okay. Well, we have a ton of questions, and I am so excited to have you on. And like we're gonna go back, like
Okay.
way back.
Oh, man. Hope I can remember stuff.
I know. So, Bobby, where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey. I spent like 90% of my life in New Jersey, and then it wasn't until 2012 that I moved to Rhode Island. But I've been here for 12 years now. It kind of flew when I think about like, wow, 12 years. It's like, wow, okay. But yeah, New Jersey was where I was born and raised.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, do you have siblings?
I do.
Family, mom and dad?
I have all brothers. I have all older brothers.
Wow.
So,
So you're the youngest.
I'm the youngest of like my mom and dad's kids, and then I have my half brothers from my dad and my stepmom. But there's like a really big age gap there. So, we weren't like super close because he was so much younger. But like me and my older brothers, we're really close. We played hockey together growing up. So whenever I get to see them, it's really nice to hang out with them and catch up.
Oh, that's awesome. Obviously they know your whole story, which we're going to get into later, but kind of what do they think of like the company that you've created and what you've done and all the stuff? I mean,
they think it's cool. I mean, they follow the social media and stuff. So when I see them, they're that they talk to me about stuff. But it's like between my time at Hasbro and my time with Valaverse, I guess it may be a little old news for them that it's like I make toys. It's just like it's like, yeah, my brother makes toys. So,
got it.
Yeah.
What was your favorite thing about your hometown growing up?
Well, it's tough because when I was younger, I grew up in South Jersey, and like they call it like the Jersey Shore, but it's like it gets that bad rap because of the show. That's not really what it was like.
Right.
It was like for me growing up was riding my bike down to the bay and catching crabs and just in the woods, in creeks and stuff like that. We had this park called Shark River Park, and you can make like a sieve basin, and you can literally find shark teeth in the creek from like forever ago. So it's like it was just fun. Like that was really fun for me. So I just remember like those days growing up. We had this place called the Sweet Shop, and it was like you ride your bike. I could picture it in my head, like riding my bike down the hill, and it was right by the bay. So me and my friend would get like back when they had like 5-cent candy, so you can get like bunch of candy, airheads and stuff like that. And then we'd go over to the bay and catch crabs, and we would just be out all day. Your parents, you said, all right, I'm leaving. Now it's like, I'm worried about like my kids going down the street, but yet here I am, like on my bike, I was gone all day until just about, sundown. So that was fun, like childhood time. And then when I was trying to think 8 or 9, we moved up to North Jersey. Kind of like where Legions is.
Yeah.
And like Legions is next to the town that like I went to high school in. So like when I came to Legions, I was driving all through the town, just like reminiscing and stuff like that. But yeah, I moved up north, and like that was fun because like then like me and my brothers, we found hockey, and then like that was it. We were rink rats. We were at the rink every single day. So those kind of memories growing up in Jersey, I think about like my dad taking me to the comic book store each weekend, trying to find, like, drive around, trying to find different comic book stores, that kind of stuff. It's not maybe just one thing. It's like several things I'd say.
Oh, that's amazing. Sounds like you had an amazing childhood.
It was fun. Yeah. I had so much fun. Just thinking back, I'm like, yeah, it's like, yeah, my parents got divorced and stuff. We moved around a lot. But I don't remember like having like a bad childhood. It was so much fun because we had friends, we were always doing stuff. Like I said, like my one house was next to our elementary school, which was right next to a bunch of woods. We were in those woods every single day, just building forts and just hanging out, trying to find salamanders and stuff. It was cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, what fun. you talked about collecting comics. Did you like have action figures as well as a kid?
I did. I had a ton of action figures. I collected everything as a kid. Now, because like, my parents got divorced, there was me and my 3 older brothers. Like my parents didn't have a lot of money. So a lot of stuff was like hand-me-down stuff, but it didn't matter. Like we'd go to garage sales and stuff like that. So I had, some cool toys, but they were all just like beat up and not complete and stuff like that. But that didn't bother me. So I collected everything. G.I. Joe was huge for me as a kid. But, a lot of Batman stuff was big for me. Comics I didn't get into until 1993, like around when the time like they were going to kill off Superman. And my dad got me into comic books then. But figures, toys were always a huge part of my childhood.
That's fantastic. Do you have any of those toys still?
I do. So not many, which, I'm very envious of when I see collectors that have like a ton of their childhood stuff. I'm like very jealous of that. But I recently, and it's actually going to debut this weekend. It's the YouTube video that's going to be on my YouTube channel. My dad had a case, like a Batman the Animated Series figure case. And he's like, hey, I found this when we were cleaning out the attic. Do you want it? And I said, yes. And I did a video where I open it up and go through it. And a lot of it is like customs that I made, like when I was like 9-10 years old. So that's like, that was really fun to do. Seeing like where my head was at, kind of the figures I destroyed. Like there was one like really, really valuable figure that I just painted all over. So, but it was just cool. It was cool to see all that stuff. But that's really the kind of like the only stuff that I have. But I've since gone back and like I've bought a bunch of the toys that I did have as a kid. They're just not
that's cool.
Ones.
Yeah. So I've told the story a couple of times, but you have to know. So my husband was growing up when Star Wars was a big thing. So he had like Star Wars toys, and for whatever reason, he got 2 Lukes. Okay. And he decided that one of his Lukes needed to have his hand burned off. So he took it in the backyard with a magnifying glass and actually burned the hand off. So that was his first modification.
Nicely done. I did that with Darth Vader because after I saw Return of the Jedi, I was like, well, Darth Vader has to have a removable hand. So I like cut the hand off, put a little like metal like rod in it so you could stick the hand back on. So he's in good company.
That's cool.
That's great.
Oh, that is great. So thinking back to that time period when you had, all the different the toys, all the action figures and stuff, like, is there one or two that stood out as like your favorites?
I went through a lot of phases. I mean, G.I. Joe was the one constant. Like there was always G.I. Joes. But like, I think like, I had gotten, I went to a flea market. My mom got me, it was the Superpowers Batmobile, and it had Batman, Robin, and the Joker. And it was like, that was huge to get as a kid. And I played with that forever. That was one that stands out. I had gotten the C-3PO carrying case, which was all like vac metalized gold chrome. And I remember, like when we had days off of school and stuff, I'd go to work with my dad and stuff, and I'd hang out in his office, and I would just bring my Star Wars figures, and I would have everything in that C-3PO carry case. I would take that thing everywhere. So those are ones that kind of stand out to me as ones that I always remember having with me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. When 89 Batman, when 89 Batman came out, I got, the Toy Biz Batman. Man, that figure was that figure meant a lot to me. I probably had that thing in my jacket pocket everywhere we went.
That's awesome. Jumping ahead just a little bit, because we've talked action figures, and you've obviously, collected action figures a lot, and obviously still do. Do you have any hobbies that don't revolve around like action figures or comic books? Or
I play a lot of hockey. That's probably my one big thing. I've been playing since I was like 9. You know, I play twice a week up here still to this day. I never really stopped playing ever. I played in college. I played in high school. So yeah, hockey is like the one thing that, you know, if a week goes by and I don't have a game or I don't play or I'm hurt or something like that, I get like a little cranky. I'm like, man, I miss my hockey. But there's something about like that first step, like after you get dressed and you're about to start your game, that first step that you get on the ice, it's just there. I can't describe it, you know, unless you've played, but there's just something about that first step and that glide right on the ice. You know, you just, I'm able to, like, when I go out there, I don't have to think about anything. I don't think about work. I don't think about, you know, my kids driving my wife crazy. I don't have to think about anything. I go out there and I just think about playing. And it's so enjoyable for me to just go out there and play that, like, you know, it's a nice, you know, release from life. You know, it sucks when we lose, but, you know, it's still just so much fun to go out there and play.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm like a baby deer on ice. All over the place.
Oh. All right. Again, let's go back early childhood. What was your like very first job that you had?
The first job I ever had was, I was a freshman in high school. So what are you, 14 years old then?
Yeah.
I didn't, you know, you weren't old enough to get working papers yet. So I had gotten a job for $4 an hour under the table at a pet store. There was a pet store right down the street from my house. And, you know, my friend was working there, and, you know, my dad was, all my older brothers, they worked at, like, you know, gas stations. And my dad's like, oh, you know, why don't you, you know, because I told him, like, I wanted to get new goalie gear, and goalie gear is very expensive. And my dad's like, well, you know, why don't you, you know, my dad he wasn't hard on us, but he instilled like really good work ethic. Like if you wanted something, you weren't just going to get it. You had to like really work for it, which I'm so glad he did, because that's where I get like the work ethic that I have today. So he's like, well, you want goalie gear, you know, get a job. And I went down to this pet store. I worked like the whole entire summer, you know, $4 an hour, you know how like, that's like nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that job was still cool because I love animals. So it was like, to be able to work at the pet store was really fun. You know, I missed out on a lot of, you know, hanging out with my friends and stuff like that. But, you know, I got my goalie equipment by the end of the summer.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So after high school, you mentioned college, like college, work, travel, like what did you do after high school? Like where's?
Yeah, after high school, I didn't go to college yet. It wasn't until it wasn't. I did things a little backwards. I was a, you know, late bloomer when it came to college. I was not a good student. You know, I was a CD student, but like all I did was draw all day. You know, I draw and play hockey. So there was a school in New Jersey called the Joe Kubert, you know, cartooning or comic book school. It was literally only school for comic book illustration. And because it was run by, you know, the Kubert family who'd been in comics for decades, you know, it was where you wanted to go to be a comic book illustrator. So because the schools that I wanted to go to, like I wanted to go to this one college and I wanted to play hockey for them. But like, you know, my SAT scores weren't good enough to go to that college. And I was really bummed. And my dad had always pushed me to like, follow your art, do that. So I was like, fine, I'll go to a comic book school. Because that's got to be fun, right? Drawing comics. So I went to that school, but it's not like a real college. It's a trade school. So after the 3 years, you don't get anything. It's just like, okay, here's the real world. See you later. So what they don't really tell you is like breaking into the comic book industry is incredibly hard, like super, super hard. And I found that like so like frustrating, and it was like demoralizing. You're just like, man, and I was going to like all the conventions, showing my portfolio, trying to get work. Then it's like, I almost got a job at CrossGen Comics. They were just about to hire me, and then they went under. And I was like, ugh, okay. So then I was like, well, you got to start paying your student loans back. So it's like, well, got to get a job. So, I got a job as a paralegal at a law firm. And even though I knew nothing about legal stuff, but, I picked it up pretty quick and I was good at it. And, I was working there and making good money. But at the same time, I was like, I don't want to. I see the guys that have been there for 20 years. I'm like, I don't want to be these guys that are just here. I was like, this isn't what I love. So, a friend of mine was like, my brother, who actually used to work for the Horseman, he goes, my brother works at Hasbro. You want me to get you in touch with him, do some toy design stuff? I'm like, yeah, man. Because up until that point, I was just doing comics. But I never thought about like the idea of doing toy design. So he got me in touch with him, and he gave me some freelance work when they were working on the first Transformers movie in 2007. And I was like, this is so much fun. Like, designing toys was great. So that same year, I got invited to a vendor fair at Hasbro. And this is still 2007. This was forever ago. Wow. And I remember the second I walked in the building, I like looked around and I said, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to work. I loved every bit of it. The way the building looked, everything, the whole atmosphere. So I was doing freelance toy design for, about a year or two. And, I said to, my friend's brother, I was like, I really want to work here. And he's like, you should go back to school, get your toy design degree. And I'm like, look, man, I did school. I'm not going back to school. Like those days are over. He's like, well, you're not going to get here without going to school. And I'm like, okay. So I was doing freelance for a little while longer. And then I said, you know what? I feel so strongly about this and I really want this that I'll do it. Now, because the Kubert School didn't give you any college credits, I had to start all over again. Like all 4 years. So do it all. And at this point, 25 or 26 years old. So it's later in life than other kids going to school. So I was like, fine, bit the bullet, went to a CCM. It's a community college in New Jersey. And I was going there at night so I could work during the day. So I was still at the law firm, and then I was going to classes at night. But the cool thing is I was able to play college hockey. Now, my older brothers, they never played college hockey. They never went to either the colleges they went to had club teams, or they never really played like real college hockey. So the school that I went to was actual Division III hockey, which is actually really good hockey. It's just that we were the lowest ranked Division III school in the entire country, like the worst of the worst. But at the same time, I was like, I get to play Division III college hockey. We were traveling to schools in upstate New York and Connecticut and Massachusetts, playing really good competition. And I was like, this is awesome, because for 2 years I was able to play college hockey while I went to school. Now, community college, like I didn't know what to expect because, like I said, I was a terrible student. But for some reason, like going to school later in life, I had this different outlook on things. And because I was paying for it and I knew I had a path in mind, all of a sudden I'm on the dean's list. I'm winning academic awards. Like I won the student athlete with the highest GPA at the school for the 2 years in a row that I was there. And I was like, how does this happen? I was a CD student. Like I'm not used to getting A's and B's here. So, and then I spent those 2 years. I got my associates in industrial design, but that was just so that I could get to the school where I got my toy design degree. And that was FIT in New York City. They were one of 2 schools in the country that actually have a toy design degree, but they were the first school to do it. And that's where like Hasbro, Mattel, Fisher Price, they all got like their designers from was this program. So I said, that's where I'm going. So I got my associates. That got me to FIT. Then it's like, I had to, because the classes were all day long, I couldn't do night classes, and I had to commute into New York City every day. I had to quit my job at the law firm. So I was living like a poor student, just commuting in, going to school. But it was like, I was focused. I was laser focused. I said, I'm doing this, because to me, the other kids in the program, they just wanted to do toy design. Like they just thought toy design was something cool. Like, oh, I'm gonna design toys. That sounds like such a fun major. For me, it wasn't even just to get into the toy industry. It was to get to Hasbro. Like there was one goal in mind to get to that place. And luckily, when I was at the community college, I was able to do an internship at Hasbro during one of my semesters. So I already kind of got my foot in the door, like going there and you know, meeting the guys and working. You know, I was on G.I. Joe for that internship. And then when I went to FIT, I got to do another internship. So they brought me back because they'd already known me. And then it was like, then I graduated and they didn't have a job ready for me yet. But they're like, don't worry, we will have one. But in the meantime, I took a job at Fisher Price in New York City also. So I had to keep going to New York City, which if you know me, you know I don't like New York City. But so I was on at Fisher Price and I was working on Thomas the Train for about 3 months until Hasbro finally called and they said, all right, your job's ready. Come on up to Rhode Island. So yeah, so sorry, that was my long-winded what did you do after high school question.
No, that's perfect. Because it was really cool to hear all of that. I mean, I don't know that I've ever heard you tell that story straight through like that. That's
Okay.
really cool. The focus that you had through school, because you knew what was at the end of the road. I mean, kids who are 18 years old, they don't have that focus. They don't know what they want to do. So, you know, I think it's a lot said that you knew exactly where you were going and what you were going to do. And so,
I saw that when I went to art school. I was there right out of high school, and I think I was one of the younger kids there. And I noticed like the older guys there, they put in a lot more effort. I was there. I was kind of like this young, cocky, like, you know, just immature kid. And I think back on it today and it's like, well, I probably wouldn't change anything because it got me to where I am now. But at the same time, I'm like, man, if I'd have gone there when I was a little older, maybe I'd have come out of there a little better and maybe I would have made it in comics and, you know, that could have been my future. But again, I wouldn't change it. But I'm glad like now it's like I had a different outlook when I went back to school, you know, which was good.
That's awesome. At some point you met your wife and you got married. Can you kind of give us the background there?
Yeah, I moved to Rhode Island. I had gotten out of a long relationship from New Jersey, and then, you know, kind of I looked at Rhode Island as like a whole fresh start. I didn't go there with anyone. Unfortunately, for the first year I was in Rhode Island, I couldn't take my dog with me because Rhode Island had really strict pit bull laws, and I had my pit bull Lily, and all the apartments that I was going to were all strict about not being able to have pit bulls. So I was like, all right. So my mom's like, don't worry, keep her with me. And, you know, as soon as you get a place that can take her, you know, just come get her. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I go up to Rhode Island. It's like a whole fresh start. It's like my own apartment. No, nothing to tie me anywhere. I was like, this is great. Job of my dreams. And I was like, this is awesome. And then, you know, here I am thinking like, yeah, I'm going to live like a bachelor for like years. And this is going to be great. And I got to get to do whatever I want and have no responsibilities besides going into work every day. But I met my wife like within a couple months of me living there. And yeah, so, you know, that whole bachelor life didn't really last all that long. I got a little taste of it. But yeah, I met her. I got there in like late August of 2012, and I met her in November of 2012. And then, but it was like, you know, I fell for her instantly. Like I was like, she is everything I want out of a person. Like, you know, she was perfect to me. And the funny thing was, I had my dog Lily. She had a dog named Lily also. So it was kind of like, well, that's kind of fitting. And then, yeah, and then go ahead.
How like when you guys got together, how were you able to tell them apart? Like when you called Lily, did they both come?
My Lily was a big white pit bull. Her Lily was a little black dachshund. So.
Right, but when you said Lily, did they both go?
Oh yeah, they both came running. Like, well, okay.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's kind of funny, but yeah.
So you have kids now, is that right?
Yep, I got two. I got two.
Girls, boys?
Boy and a girl. My son
Oh.
Mason is 8, and my daughter McKenna is 5.
Oh, how
So,
sweet.
yeah, they're just animals, like absolutely.
We do have a super chat.
Oh,
Oh,
yay.
wow, all right.
From Hedgehog Action. Great show, guys. Swarm Tracer rules.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Glow in the dark figures are awesome.
Yes, they are. So you interned for Hasbro a couple of times. You said G.I. Joe area at one point, and then
Marvel.
And then Marvel. Okay.
Yep.
So when you interned, those were the two places that you interned. When you actually went to work for them, like what was the department that you were in, like your job?
Yeah, when I went back, they had this this team called the Exclusives team. So back then, it wasn't like the individual teams that handled their own exclusives. It was one team dedicated to all the brand's exclusives. So I got to work on Transformers, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Marvel, Nerf, Beyblade. It was like really cool. So it was just a constant change of pace. I was working on something new and fresh, but it was like we were doing Target exclusives, and back then there was still Toys R Us, and there was Amazon was just kind of coming up, and we're doing the BJ's, the big box store exclusives. So that was really fun being able to work on a bunch of different brands. Now it was just me and my boss, who I loved. He was like, one of my mentors. He always took all the Star Wars stuff because he was a huge Star Wars fan, and he hated Marvel. So he would give me all the Marvel stuff. Every now and then he'd throw me a Star Wars thing, every now and then, but it was great. And then, but then they did this massive layoff in February of 2013, and my boss got laid off. So I was sitting there like, holy crap, I just moved up here. Like, what's going to happen? And, they ended, because I had interned with the Marvel team and I was working on a lot of Marvel exclusive products. They just absorbed me into the Marvel team. So that's where I spent, 90% of my Hasbro career was on Marvel.
Gotcha. All right. Before we get any further, I want to let you guys know Bobby has graciously offered up and one of the exclusive black Pandoras, black dress Pandoras, for us to give away on the show tonight. So, Bobby, first of all, thank you so much for that offer of that. That is so kind of you. So we are going to start taking hashtags, and you guys start pulling them in, and let's get some names up there so we can do the giveaway. Amber, have you got that available to show?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Hashtag yay Pandora.
Woo! All right. So you guys, we are going to do the hashtag yay Pandora. You will get in touch with me or Amber after it's over, and we will get your information to Bobby so that he can send that out to you.
Sounds good.
Hashtag yay Pandora. All right. Now let me... Oops. I'm going to put that up so that
they're
people
flying in.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Abby can't put in there. He's probably got a ton of them already. He probably has like 10 or 15 of them.
Now, come on.
I think at Legions, he was like, can I buy a case of them?
Was he really?
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised if he asked to buy a case of them.
Okay. Well, maybe somebody that doesn't have one is going to win it. That's what we're going to say.
Abby's good. He'll end up winning it, and then he'll end up, doing a giveaway on his show for it.
Yeah, and we've done that. I don't know how many times. Amber and I have been on other shows and won stuff, and then we'll turn around and give it away on our show. Somebody mentioned, yes, I have my Pandora here and my Eclipse there that we have, and then I haven't taken her out, but
The pink lady.
I love her. She is awesome. So you did one for breast cancer. Have you considered doing a teal one for ovarian cancer?
I've been asked about it. There's also I know I got a couple comments from the guys like, hey, you can't leave us out too. There's like there's testicular cancer and colon cancer, and I was like, all right, maybe we can do something each year. That might be fun to do something like that. Maybe we'll take one of the Praetorian androids and do some fun funky color for one of them. But yeah, listen, the Steel Brigade, she went over so well. I was able to send a really big check to that foundation, which was great. So that's what it's all about is,
it is.
it being successful to the point where we can help them.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to do something again along those lines.
My stepmom passed away from ovarian cancer, and Teal Toes, which is an organization that sponsors research for ovarian cancer because it is very hard to detect. A lot of the symptoms are symptoms of other things, and until you put them together, you don't really realize that you've got ovarian cancer. And my stepmom actually diagnosed herself after she saw something that had them all listed together, like all the symptoms, and she had all but one. And so she passed away. So Teal Toes is the organization that I have supported for years. So my toes are always teal. So anytime you see me walking around anywhere, anytime, all year long, my toes are teal because I support that organization, what they did. So it's pretty interesting.
Maybe I'll have to do that one. My mom, she just died from ovarian cancer a couple months ago. So maybe I'll do something like that, for this year. I think that might be a good one.
My heart goes out to you, Bobby. I'm so sorry. It is a tough thing, but thank you. That's awesome. All right. Looks like we've got another super chat. Is that right?
Yes.
Amber? Okay.
Laser pants.
This guy.
Where did you ladies dig up this angry old curmudgeon?
We actually dug him up at Legion's Con, amazingly enough.
For those of you that don't know, that is Ryan Laser Pants that does the 3 POA with me every other Saturday. So.
Hi, Ryan. And I will have to say, he has been very gentlemanly and very wonderful on our show. So I don't know what you're talking about from your show. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, so more questions. You having the unique opportunity to work on a bunch of different lines doing their special editions and stuff and special ones, was there one line with Hasbro that you really enjoyed working on just overall? Was there one that you just really enjoyed?
I mean, Marvel was so awesome. It was such a great time to be on Marvel. They had, the first Avengers had come out that year, 2012, and then, they were working on all these different MCU properties. So that was exciting. Like Marvel was just a fun line to work on. There's something special about G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe is my all-time favorite toy line. So, the few exclusive things I got to do were great. And then when they actually put me on the G.I. Joe brand in 2016, it was like a dream come true. It was like I did my first internship on G.I. Joe. Now to be able to work on it. Now it didn't really go that far because they were working on the third movie, and then they realized that they weren't going to do a third movie, and The Rock dropped out. So they were like, we're just going to shelve G.I. Joe again. So they just shipped me back to Marvel. So it was just a short-lived time, but that was special. But Marvel was so exciting, because you were always working on a different movie property. Something was going to come up. They were doing, 3 movies a year. Right. So, it's like, oh, I got to work on, Guardians 2. And then I was, they sent me to the Ant-Man premiere, and it's like I got to talk to James Gunn at the after party about the Guardians 2, the dancing Groot figure that I did. And it was just like, that was fun. Then it's like I got to do the last 2 Avengers movies. So I did all the kid figure stuff for Infinity War and Endgame. I was like, man, that was so cool. Then I got to do some Doctor Strange stuff and some Black Panther stuff. And, those were smaller lines, but man, those Avengers lines, like when they gave you like those reins, like you felt like something special. Like this is a big thing for me to do these. So, I'd probably have to go with Marvel just because it was so much fun and it was always changing. I got on the brand. As soon as I got on the brand, I started working on Spider-Man, and I was working on the product for Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's like, holy crap. Like the first stuff I get to work on is a movie Spider-Man stuff. And Spider-Man was just a fun character. You could do anything with Spider-Man. And then we got to do the animated series Spider-Man stuff. And then they moved me, over to Guardians. And then I was doing Hero Mashers, some Titan Hero stuff. And then, throughout, the more Marvel I worked on, the more Legends stuff they gave me. So it was just like, at first I was doing the 4-inch collector stuff, and that was kind of going away. And then little by little, they gave me more. I got to do the 12-inch stuff. Then I got to do the big role play prop replica stuff. And then I started getting more 6-inch figures. And it was like, by the end, I was working on a bunch of the 6-inch, Legend stuff. And that was like the most coveted line to work on. So it was like a big honor to be able to work on that much Marvel stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it was like, Ryan just reminded me, it was like at the end there, I got to go out to Marvel Studios. This was 2017. Got to go out to Marvel Studios in Georgia, and we were on the Infinity War set. So at the time, like the street, remember when Iron Man and Doctor Strange come out of the Sanctum and they're fighting Thanos' guys on the street? Like that scene had like just happened. All the rubble was on the street. Robert Downey Jr.'s stunt double was there in the tracksuit. So I got to like go inside the Sanctum. Like that was really cool. And then they had I think it was the Morag set, or no, it was Titan. It was Thanos' Titan set, the big rocky planet. They had that set like indoors that we got to, go in. And at one point, the big round ship that Rocket is in, when Thor is trying to keep the star open to make Stormbreaker, they had Rocket's little round ship there, and it was like little. It was, so like stuff like that. Like that was really, really fun. We got to sit in a half-hour meeting with Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers, and I'm like, this is like wild. Like this is so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All the stories. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sitting here going, I'm reliving the movie as you're talking about.
Yes.
That's fantastic. If you could go back and change something in the time period that you were at Hasbro, if you could go back and make a change to something, what would it be?
That's tough. I mean, people who listen to me know I'm very, I don't want to say opinionated, but I care a lot about the way a product is made. So it's like when I see a company putting out a product and it's not great, or I feel like they're kind of ripping off customers, I'm very outspoken about that kind of stuff. I was the same way at Hasbro. To me, it was like, yes, I was a company man. Like I was so loyal to Hasbro, but at the same time, if I felt that they weren't going in the right direction on a product, I was very outspoken about that, and where most people weren't. Like it was very much, you got directions from management and you took your orders and you did them. To me, I just looked at it as like, listen, I want to make the best possible product, because it's the worst feeling to make a product that when it gets in people's hands is not good. Like, and to me, I put my all into every single item I worked on. So, if there was a decision from upper management that I was just like, what are they doing? I fought it, and I might have been labeled a boat rocker for that. And at Hasbro, they did not like boat rockers at all. So when I was laid off in 2018, I'm sure a lot of that came into play. Now, I was shocked because, you know, I had won a Toy of the Year award the year prior. I had another item get nominated the following year. I was working on the most high-profile brands, the last 2 Avengers movies. I think the items I was working on generated over $300 million each year. I had more items than anyone on the Marvel team. But because I gave management kind of a hard time, I think they looked at it as like, well, we could just get someone else in there that'll say yes to us and not give us a hard time. But it's like, when I look back, the things that I fought, I ended up being right on. So, you know, had I not been a boat rocker and not fought for the product, maybe I'd still be there. You know, but to me, I couldn't just be a yes man. So I don't know if I would change that, because it's like, I'm here now and I have this, you know, Valaverse is incredibly successful, more successful than I could have ever imagined. And I'm having more fun now in my toy career than I ever had. And, you know, I guess I wouldn't change it. But I guess if you look and you're like, I guess I could have done that differently. But, you know, if I had done it differently, I might still be there making the salary I was making and just kind of getting by. And, you know, it just would have been different.
Yeah. And Van agreed. Respect. Absolutely. When you left Hasbro, when you were laid off or whatever, like, what happened? Where did you go next? What did you do after Hasbro?
I mean, me and my best friend at the time, he was just let go at his job. So there was a lot of day drinking and just hanging out, just being boys, which was nice. But it was a roller coaster of emotions. I was upset. I was angry, and it would like fluctuate. I'd wake up in the morning and be like, I cannot believe like I don't get to go into work anymore. And then there were days like I was just super pissed. Like, how could they do that to me? Everything I did for them, all the items that I did and the awards and stuff like that. Like they did that. Like, you know, I was really pissed. But you know, it's like I wasn't going to leave the toy industry. So it was just like, okay. And a really good friend of mine, he was let go from Hasbro at the same time. So, you know, we were having lunch every week and he was just, you know, what are you going to do? And he was like, you know, you could probably do your own thing. I was like, I don't know if I want to do my own thing. I was like, it might be nice to just have some job security, you know, work for another company. And, you know, so I looked at it as like, well, maybe I'll try both paths. I said, yeah, I could probably do my own thing. And I looked at kind of gaps in the marketplace and what I was going to do at the time. But then I also said, well, I'm still going to try to pursue working for another company. So I started Valaverse. You know, I had the ideas for Action Force. And, you know, as soon as like 2019 came, you know, I founded the company and then just started getting to work. But then by, I think, May, Jazzware started recruiting me. And I was like, okay. I was like, sure, you know. At the time, I hadn't heard great things about Jazzwares, but I was like, you know, job security is nice. My wife was pregnant. So I was like, okay, you know, but it was also like, well, you know, they're in Florida. And they're like, well, you got to come down to Florida. So I was living down in Florida while my, you know, 8-month pregnant wife was home with our son by herself. I'm sitting there. They put me up in this $1 million condo right on the beach. And I was like, this is cool. So I get back. I got this view of the ocean, this big giant condo. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. You know, but I wasn't a big fan of Florida, maybe just that area. Also, Jazzwares, like, they're better now, but at that time they were kind of a mess. And, you know, I was there and I was there thinking like, okay, you know, they have this seasoned designer from Hasbro that worked on these high profile brands. You know, I'll have some pull, you know, but they they didn't like outsiders. The people that were like lifers, the people that, you know, had been at Jazzwares forever, they did not like people that came from other companies, because I came in trying to, I don't want to say change things, but just, you know, trying to like say like, okay, like, you know, here's how we should be doing things. Here's things that we found worked at Hasbro, this, that. And I got turned down at every turn. I talked to my boss who came from Hasbro. I was like, you know, Rick, man, like they're not letting me do anything. Like I'm handcuffed here. And, you know, he was trying to get them to, you know, do this. And they're like, no, this is the Jazzwares way. So it was frustrating then. But also, I think it was just bad timing, you know, because I was literally commuting. I was flying back to Rhode Island like every other weekend. So, you know, that just took its toll on me too. And, you know, it's like, all right, well, you know, I was there for about 3 or 4 months. And I said, all right, you know, my family needs me to be home. My wife's going to have this baby any day now. I'm going to get out of here. And, you know, there was kind of a plan to eventually go back. But I think what happened was, you know, the first Kickstarter for Action Force didn't fund. And I was like, oh, crap. I was like, all right, well, I guess, you know, I'm going to go back to Jazzwares. But then I started thinking about it. I'm like, no, I think there's a future in this. So then, you know, I launched the second one and it got so, you know, it caught fire and it funded, and I started working on it. I was like, all right, well, I guess I don't need to go back to Jazzwares now. But, you know, I was also like, still like, well, no, I still think I need a job. I need, you know, health insurance and that kind of thing. So Wicked Cool Toys in Pennsylvania had an opening. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, you know, Pennsylvania, I could be close to my family in Jersey. Like this might work. So I went there and I interviewed and I loved it. And that day, like the woman who was running the boys design department, she was like, yeah, the job's yours if you want it. I'm like, yes, I will take this job. Like, you know, she's like, cool. I'll have the paperwork drawn up. This was on a Thursday. She's like, I have the paperwork drawn up. You know, you should get it like Monday, Tuesday. And I'm like, great. I drive home, tell my wife, like, we got to start looking for houses in Pennsylvania. And Toy Fair was that weekend. Over the Toy Fair weekend, Jazzwares finalized the acquisition of Wicked Cool Toys. So I was like, wait a second, I just left Jazzwares. So then, like, you know, Monday, I called the woman who interviewed me. I said, hey, is this going to affect anything? She goes, no, they told us that nothing's going to happen. Everything's going to operate the same way. And then a week goes by and I don't hear anything. And then another week goes by and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And she was like, yeah, they put a hiring freeze on everything. And then they said they were going to keep Wicked Cool its own company. And instead they just dissolved it. And I was like, oh, that sucked. But by then we're talking now you're in late 2019, early 20. So no, it's like early 2020. And like Action Force took off, but then COVID hit, you know? So it was like, you know, it was just a weird time, but it all kind of worked out in the end.
Yeah. So during that time that you started Valaverse, like, where did I know Vala is your last name, but like, where did you come up with the name of Valaverse? Like, how did that come about?
So someone else did. It was, you know, we used to be friends, and unfortunately, we're not friends anymore. But I think he had, you know, I was, you know, kind of teasing the idea of doing something, and you know, it was around the time like everything had like the verse in it, like Into the Spider-Verse, and you know, he just said like, I can't wait to see what the Valaverse has to offer. And I'm like, that's a really cool name. I didn't, you know, because I was like struggling. I was trying to think of all these cool names and I'd come up with a name and then someone already had it or something similar. And I was like, well, Valaverse has a nice ring to it. You know, so I told him, I was like, hey man, I said, can I use this and, you know, not have to pay anything? And I made sure I saved the text messages of him saying, no, it's, you know, you can have it. You don't have to pay me anything. But yeah, that's kind of how like Valaverse kind of came to be.
That's cool. Yeah, I was like, like, how did that happen? Like, but yeah, I mean, Into the Spider-Verse and all that stuff.
Yep.
If that was the same time, that makes
Yep.
perfect sense. So when you were going through all of this and your wife is pregnant and you're starting your own company and all the stuff, like, how did she feel about starting the company? And
I mean, she's always been really supportive.
Yes.
You know, she's been great through the whole thing. She's just like, I think she just had a lot of trust in me. You know, she was just like, you know, you've never let us down yet. So, you know, but it was also like, that's the scary part is like, okay, I have, you know, wife, 2 kids, one, you know, a newborn. You know, we got a mortgage, bills. I'm like, okay, I got to make sure, like, if I do this whole company thing, like, that it's going to work. Otherwise, I'm going to be working at Lowe's, you know. But yeah, it just did. And, you know, luckily, you know, I haven't had to be put in the position where, you know, I'm like, okay, well, we gotta watch our money, this and that. Like we've you know, been fortunate enough that this worked out, and that's because of the fans. Like, you know, I'm so thankful to them that they accepted this line and what I was doing and helped make it successful, so that, you know, my family has, you know, what they have. So,
yeah.
you know, I think every day on how lucky I am that it worked out, because man, if it didn't, I don't know what I'd be doing.
So, just everybody that has jumped on in the last little bit, Bobby has graciously offered up one of his exclusive black dressed Pandoras for us to give away. So it is hashtag Yay Pandora. We'll draw in a little bit. We're going to keep talking to Bobby, but if you're on, please put in that hashtag to win the Pandora dressed in black. She is amazing. Okay, we have a super chat.
Yep. From Curtis Ackerman. Bobby has strong opinions, which makes him a polarizing character. I enjoy hearing him talk about the toy industry. The video he did recently on customizing and unlicensed toys is fantastic.
Thanks, Curtis. I'm glad you dug that one. Yeah, that was that video. We filmed that one. And I said to my YouTube guys, I said, I think this one's gonna maybe not ruffle feathers, but I said this one's gonna, you know, be interesting, because I wanted to make a video on customs and third-party stuff, because I feel strongly about both. And after, you know, being at Legion's Con really changed my perception of customs for the good. And, you know, I talk about that in the video, and then I talk about, you know, unlicensed third-party stuff. And, you know, there's a lot of differing opinions in the comments about it, which is interesting. But it gets people talking, it gets people watching the video, which is great.
Yeah.
Well, we watched it, and I'm going to agree. I think you did really great on it, and I enjoyed watching it and hearing your, you know, your opposing, and you talk through like both sides of your opinion. I thought it was really, really great. So for those who may not have seen it, where can they go find it? What is your
you just look up Valaverse on YouTube. That's where the Valaverse channel is, and we got new videos coming out every Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And you know, but go check out like our back catalog. There's some really fun videos in there. You know, office tour videos. When I moved into the new office here, those were fun. But if you want, like, you know, what I try to do with the channel is I don't, you know, when I did the channel, I said, I don't want to just talk about Action Force stuff. You know, I do that on my 3POA show. It's like, you know, I talk about that all the time. I said, I want to just talk about the toy industry in general. And I want to give people like a peek behind the curtain, stuff that other companies don't talk about, how things are made, why certain things are done, you know, just that extra level of like, you know, getting people in behind the scenes, and people really enjoyed that. So I'm always trying to like figure out how I could do that more. Like what can I do here? You know, so I like, you know, seeing people's suggestions in the comments, and, you know, we try to figure out the best stuff to film. And my YouTube guy, he travels up here from South Carolina once a month. We film for a few days. We've done some store tours, which are fun. And the batch of videos we just film, I think, is probably our best ones yet. We got some really good ones coming. And then he comes to the shows and we film at the shows, which is always fun, trying to do toy hunts and seeing what we could find. So he'll be at ZoloCon filming me trying to spend money.
That's always the best time.
Right? Yeah. What are you supposed to do at a show? You're supposed to spend money.
Spend money. That's right. So Action Force is actually the name of what I think, if I remember correctly, Action Force is what G.I. Joe was called over in Europe. Is that correct?
In a way.
Used to be.
Yeah, in a way. So Action Force was the line of UK company Palitoy. So Palitoy had done the 12-inch Action Man series. And then when they were doing their 3 3/4-inch line, in 1982, just after the Star Wars, they were doing these 5 POA military figures, and they called it Action Force. And that was super popular in Europe. And then, Hasbro, with G.I. Joe being a very like red, white, and blue American brand, it was kind of hard to get it into like Europe. So what happened was eventually Hasbro had purchased Palitoy, and they used Action Force to get their Joes out. So they started out by releasing their G.I. Joes in Action Force branded packaging. And they called it Action Force International Heroes. And then eventually, after like a few years, they just changed it all over to G.I. Joe, because they're like, well, G.I. Joe's so popular, we can just call it G.I. Joe. Everyone worldwide knows G.I. Joe. And then Action Force just disappeared. So, all through, there was no Action Force in the 90s. It was just, a small run brand in the 80s. And it's like, it was very popular for a very short period of time. But it really only ran from, I think, like 82 to 86. Oh, wow. I'm trying to remember when Hasbro acquired them, but Hasbro like phased it out really fast. So then, because, during the 90s, toy companies were just buying up other toy companies. Hasbro bought, I think it was Tonka, and Tonka had bought in Kenner. So Hasbro ended up acquiring like Star Wars and all these other brands. And Action Force just got lost. And it's, because it was a European brand, it's not like anyone in the States really cared. But us fans, we knew about it. We'd always known, like I knew Action Force and saw it in magazines and, was always aware of it. So, when I got let go from Hasbro and I was having those lunches with my friend, he was kind of in charge of securing trademarks at Hasbro. And, when I kind of told him what I want to do, I just don't know what to call it. And he kind of put it in my head, like, hey, I didn't secure everything. He goes, there might be some stuff out there if you dig that might, he called it real estate. He goes, it might have some real estate to it. And, he goes, a name could be worth something. It might not have been worth it to Hasbro to secure it. But he's like, and that's when I was digging. I was like, oh, Action Force is available. It was like, it officially went abandoned in 2005. But that was just Hasbro officially filing the paperwork to make it go abandoned. Like they weren't, the way a trademark works is if you don't use it within 3 years, it's considered abandoned. And then you can actually file paperwork to make it abandoned. But as long as you're using the mark in some way, it doesn't have to be like product out on the shelves. You can just show that you're still working on concepts and stuff like that, keeping the name alive. Hasbro just didn't care about, keeping that line. And I looked at it as like, well, Action Force had such a rich history that I didn't want to, like I wanted to reboot it. I didn't want the Action Force name to be dead. And it's like the way Hasbro was operating, they probably didn't even realize they owned the Palitoy Action Force line. So I just looked at it as like, I'm going to legally, I acquired the trademark, got a trademark attorney and went through all the steps to make sure it was available, filed all the paperwork. And I got Action Force, and then I just rebooted. I said, I want to come up with something new. I'm going to create all new characters, all new story. And it's just a modern day take on, you know, something new, you know, modern take on Action Force. So that's kind of where it all started.
That's awesome. So you did the Kickstarter twice, like
Yes.
between the first one and the second one, like how much did you learn? Like what kind of things did you change from the first one to the second one? I mean,
So
I know the second one went like gangbusters.
Yep.
So kind of how did that come about?
Yeah, the first one, I think I was just overzealous about it. You know, I don't think I'd done enough research. Like between the first and second one, I did a ridiculous amount of research on Kickstarters. Because the first one was 5 figures with a, you know, $150,000 or $175,000 fund goal. And it didn't make it. So then what I did was I said, all right, maybe that's too many. Maybe I went too big too fast. So I said, let me trim it down. And I went to 3 figures, and I made the fund goal 99,000, because all the research I was doing was that, you know, and it's weird. It's a perception of the consumer was with a lot of people like, well, if I see a fund goal that's too high, I'm not gonna pledge for it because I don't think it'll make it. The funny thing is, or people are like, I want to wait to see if it funds before I pledge. And it's like, well, it doesn't charge your card until it funds. So to me, I always found that mentality, like the customer mentality when it comes to Kickstarters, like that makes 0 sense, like absolutely 0 sense. But people are going to do what people are going to do. So I said, all right, well, let me put it under 100,000, and then like people have this thought like, oh, it can make it. Then that's a low fund goal. We can make it. So did that. And the funny thing was, at the end of the second Kickstarter, and it ended up bringing in more money than what the fund goal was on the original Kickstarter. And then all those figures unlocked anyway. So it's like, well, I just did all the figures from the first Kickstarter anyway. Yeah, it's like, that's the strange thing about Kickstarter. So, you know, I try to like put it out there, or if people are going to start a Kickstarter, I've had a lot of people ask me like, you know, hey, do you have any advice? And I tell them like, keep it simple, keep it streamlined, under 100,000, and you'll be all right. So, you know, yeah, the second one worked, but then it was like, it got hit with bad timing. It's like it funded in October of 2019. I had all my stuff ready for the factory to turn over all my models, paint masters, you know, input sheets, to make sure like, guys, we got to hit a year. Like, you know, I want to deliver like within a year. I don't want to, because there was this bad rap with Kickstarters where it was taking, you know, way over a year and a half, in most cases, like 2 to 3 years. So people had this bad taste in their mouth, like, oh, I'm waiting forever for Kickstarter stuff. I didn't want that to happen. So it was like my goal to make sure that I was all buttoned up to get it there in time. So I turned all my stuff over in December. Then COVID hits. Factory shuts down. I'm like, man, here I was all set, you know? Yeah. So, but it was like, I think it was the perfect storm, because COVID, people had a lot of extra disposable income, and we kept the pre-orders open after the Kickstarter ended. So we ended up making a million in sales during that whole time, because we kept the pre-order open. Hasbro announced classified. It was just literally the perfect storm. So, you know, we were just getting orders after orders after orders for that first series. And at the end of the day, it took a year and a half, which isn't terrible, especially with COVID. You know, the factory shut down for 4 or 5 months. And then when it came back, it was a skeleton crew. Things were going slow. And it's like, you got to get real creative on how you keep people engaged while people are waiting for their product. Because even though it's a worldwide pandemic, toy collectors, man, they don't care. They're like, why is this taking so long? Where's my product? And it's like, do you know there's a worldwide pandemic going on? Excuse me. So it's, you know, it was frustrating, but exciting at the same time. And then, you know, it all worked out in the end, because the product got here. And the good thing is that the first series was so successful that I was able to put the second series into production before the first series arrived, so that when you got the first series, it was only like 3 months later and the second series came out. And
Oh wow.
that's always the way it's been. Like, we haven't done any crowdfunding. I've always rolled the funds back into the company, and I'm able to do production on series without any upfront money from customers. Like, I pay for the tooling and the production. Yeah, we do some soft pre-orders where it's like, a 4 to 5 month pre-order window. But at that point, the product's like just about done. I've already paid for it.
Right.
So, I'm fortunate enough to be able to get product out very, very fast because of what we've done since the beginning.
Yeah. That's awesome. Laser Pants said, speaking of Kickstarters, I'm still waiting on the High Point figure.
High Point was a figure that was in the unlocks. And, back then it's like, the other thing is like, you're kind of learning as you're going. Like, you're hitting the ground running. You don't really have a lot of time to let things marinate and, figure stuff out. So, I created this character and his name was High Point, but I never liked that name. So that figure actually ended up coming out, and his name was Blowback.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so it was like the figure came out, and all those figures came out. I've changed names. I've changed the way things were written on file cards for Series 1. I didn't like, and then I changed people's names and people's backstories for when I reissued a figure, because you have time to like really let it soak in and kind of figure this all out. Like I said, sometimes you don't always have the time, until you get a second crack at it. And you're like, actually, I'm going to change that.
So there is a comic book that has come out, Action Force, Valaverse Action Force.
Yeah.
Did the figures come first, or did the
No, the comic came first because of COVID. So while COVID was going on, I'm like, well, might as well put a comic out because I can print that here in the States and then at least get something in people's hands while they're waiting for the figure. So I had done, a couple issues of the comic and was able to put those out so that when I did shows and I was just showing prototypes, at least I could sell comics and shirts and stickers and stuff like that. Something to like, at least make people feel like they're getting something. But yeah, the comics were great, and we ended up doing 8 issues of the comic and reprinted those a bunch of times, and then did the trade paperback, reprinted the trade paperback a couple times. And now it's like people are still clamoring for more comics. And now it's like the comics were such a big undertaking, and I was just spread too thin, that now I'm talking with a publisher to hopefully start producing Action Force comics.
Oh, that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have, like, in your mind, when you're creating a figure, do you have like a long-term story arc in mind for every one of your characters, like where they're going and what they're going to do? And
yeah, pretty much. Like I know like what's going to happen with certain characters, and what I have planned for them. I also have like ideas for other factions in the story. So like for Series 6 is an all villains series, and I'm introducing a new faction in that series, which is going to play a very pivotal part in the Action Force lore moving forward. So there's that. There's it's like, we're working on the movie, and it's like with the movie script, it's like, how do you're creating your story based on the comics and the lore on the file cards, but at the same time, you have to do this movie script and not tell the exact same story because you want to keep some stuff different. So it's like you're kind of creating 2 timelines for Action Force at the same time. It's really interesting.
yeah, that's so cool. I think storytelling is amazing, and how you have to make them come together at the end, but they can't go the same way.
Yep. Yep.
I know that you've put out a video recently because I was able to watch it, and you were very in depth again go to YouTube, look up Valaverse, and you can see all of his videos. But you really spoke about like the process of getting a figure from concept to getting it made. And you went through all of the different steps that you have to go to. And not going into that much depth because that video, go watch the video if you haven't seen it yet. Can you just give us like an overview? It starts here and here,
Yep.
and this is where it ends up.
Yeah, it starts like with your concept. You know, you come up with a character. So it's like, all right, here. So like Atlas. I was like, I wanted to do a big boy. I wanted to do a new big buck body. It's like, okay, well, then you start thinking like, okay, well, how do you want this guy to look? And, I try to use a lot of real world gear, but then like put my own spin on it, so it's like, you try to create the look of the character. It's like, okay, well, it'd be cool if you had like this knit cap on, you had this goatee, like, you try to think of, you look at your line and look at, okay, well, what have I done? What can I do that's different? Because you want all the figures to be different. You want them to sit on a shelf and be like, wow, that's a pretty wide range of figures. You don't want it like figures to get lost and make, oh, they all look the same. So, I kind of come up with that, like, who is this character? What kind of person is he? And, or sometimes I'll create a character just based on gear alone. Like, one of the new villains in the villain series. I said, I want a guy that just has knives. Excuse me. Like Bill the Butcher from Gangs of New York. I want a guy that's just a psychopath who just has knives all over him. And, you kind of start that way. Like, okay, well, I'm creating this character based on his gear. Some characters are just different. Pandora, I said, I want this badass female character, that you will fall in love with. Like, even though she slits people's throats, so it's different for each one. And then it's like, once I sit down, I design the character, and then it's like, I send it over to a 3D sculptor. That 3D sculptor will then, create files in 3D of them, brings it to life. And my inputs, like my sculptors always tell me, like, I love your inputs because you give the most detailed inputs ever. Like some other toy companies, like I was talking to a friend of mine the other night, we use the same sculptor on stuff. And I've been using his sculptor on a lot of my stuff because he's fantastic. And, my friend told me, he goes, yeah, he told me he loves your inputs because they're super detailed. He goes, I'll just give him I'll pull some Google images and I'll make some rough notes. I draw every single character, like from scratch, all their gear, all their details, the way a vest will open up. I'll always, draw that out, because to me, it's like, I don't want someone to interpret something their way and have me not like it. It's like, I give you super clean inputs to make sure you do it my way, the way I want the figure to be done. So that's, I'm picky in that sense, but yeah, I got great sculptors. They do great work. Then it's like, okay, you got the sculpt. Then it goes over to China. Then, you kick it off with China. Here are the files. They start building models. They start getting, the tooling model ready. Okay, you approve that. Then it's like, then it goes to the actual steel cutting. When they say tooling, it's when you cut the molds, the steel molds. You do that with CNC machines, and you do that. And then it's like, those have to get cleaned up. And then you start running them. Then you get test shots, and you see early samples. And then you have to finesse those along the way. And then, then they start doing deco samples, and then, they're called EP samples. Then you get FEP samples, which are, in-box samples. And then, a couple rounds of that, and then your figure's kind of in production and ready to get shipped out to you.
Oh, makes my head like explode, all the different parts and pieces. Now,
yeah,
when you were at Hasbro, did you have a relationship with the guys that were actually creating the figure, because you were on this end? Did you know about that then, or did all of that come together when you started Valaverse?
Are you talking about like the 3D sculptors?
Not the 3D sculptors, but like the like when it goes over to China.
Oh,
and that
yeah.
process.
So the cool thing is so you want to have what's called a project manager. You want someone who basically is your middleman to the factory. So you relay all the information to your project manager. That project manager is talking with the engineers and designers in China at the factory. You know, they speak the language, they can relay all that. My project manager, so at Hasbro, they have what's called HFE, Hasbro Far East. It's Hasbro's Asia office, where we had counterparts. So I was the designer on a Marvel item. I had a design counterpart over in HFE. Same thing, like I had my engineer at Hasbro. There was an engineer counterpart over at Hasbro. So my design counterpart over at HFE is now my project manager today. So because he left Hasbro, you know, I think a year or two after I left. And you know, so I was working with another project manager, but then, you know, when he left and I wanted to, you know, the thing is, you don't want just one factory. You want multiple factories. This way you could do multiple items. You don't have to worry like, okay, well, this factory is a little slow and so-and-so's line is in front of you, so you can't get things done. So, you know, I was like, I want to bring on more factories. So I got another project manager, my buddy Joe, and it's like cool because we worked for years together on tons of Hasbro product. And now he's my project manager on all my Action Force stuff.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it pays to like keep really good contacts. You
Yeah.
know, I got a good Rolodex of like all the contacts from Hasbro when I was at Jazzwares, you know, because you never know who you're going to need at any point.
Absolutely. So wave 1 was 5 figures, did you say?
Let's see, because I got them right over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was like 6 figures and then an exclusive. So it was like 7 and then 3 basic figures and then a bunch of gear packs and a bunch of weapons pack. And then it ended up being like 17 or 19 items.
Oh, wow.
Between the figures, the basic troopers, the gear packs, and the weapons packs. Yeah, because like as we were taking more orders in, it kept like I kept the unlock goals even after the Kickstarter ended. So we kept unlocking items.
Oh, that's
like
cool.
as the orders were coming in during COVID. So it was cool because, you know, yeah, it's like the first series, like I said, I think it ended up being over 1 million in sales between, you know, the sales we got from people and then our wholesale partners. Like Big Bad was taking a ton of orders during COVID. Right. So the line just blew up. And it's like you know, the initial factory I had, you know, we gave them, you know, each factory has like a minimum order quantity and it's really low. You know, it's like 2,000 pieces. It's like we destroyed those numbers. Like we were like 5-6 times those numbers by the time, like, you know, I kept upping my quantities with that first series. And then, you know, and it's like the numbers have never stopped. So it's like, it's great because you get this successful line. You're able to do these higher quantities. And when you do higher quantities, you kind of get preferential treatment at factories.
Yep.
You know, it's like, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've talked to friends of mine who are at the same factory who are like, I can't get my thing done because they're working on your shit. And I'm like, sorry, I don't know if we can curse on the show. So I was trying not to. You know, so, all right. Yeah. So it's just like, it's like, sorry, man. But it's like, that's kind of the way the factories in China work. Like if they look at it as like, okay, well, do I want to do your 1,000-piece run? Or do I want to do his 10,000 piece run? Like that's, as a business, they're obviously going to pick where they're making more money on.
Right.
It sucks. I feel bad for the smaller companies, but you know, that's why like I moved to other factories. So now I think I have like 4 factories now. You know, you got to have a ton of factories because again, you know, and then you could move the tools between different factories. It's like, okay, well, if this factory over here is getting too slow, we're going to compile some stuff over here to be able to like use these parts on this factory because they're faster.
Right.
There's all sorts of different parameters.
Gotcha. Yeah. And you said that right now you're on wave 6.
Yeah. Series 6. I'm going to be announcing what is in Series 6 at the panel at our Dallas show, DFW, in June.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that's like our big summer show where we have our major panel where we do all our reveals and stuff. But it's like, yeah, it's series 6, but even though it's like the core series 6, there's always supplemental items in between the core series. So like I did these things called the special deployment series, where it was like an extra wave of figures that wasn't like it. Sometimes those SDS series would have new figures and reissues. So it's like, and then it's like in February, I'm announcing a secret series that I've never shown, never teased, never nothing. And I had this idea. I was like, you know what? I want to make a series of figures. And then I'm just going to say like one day on social media, like product drop tomorrow. And then the next day have it just show up and then people could just buy it. And then it's like this big series. That's a big surprise. So if all goes well, that's the plan. Like leading up to ZoloCon is we got to announce our ZoloCon exclusive, which is probably my all-time favorite figure that I've done in this whole line.
Oh, wow.
And then we have the secret series coming, so it's like you got those items. Then it's like we got some Vanguard upgrades coming sometime in the spring, and tons of other items that I have in the hopper. So it's I'm always working on something and trying to get new stuff out to everybody, because you don't just want one series or 2 series a year. You want to put a bunch of items out throughout the year,
right? And I know that the growth of the company has just grown and grown and grown. Are you happy with like how it's grown and how things have happened, and just the general health, I guess, of the company itself, of Valaverse Action Force?
Yeah, I couldn't be happier. Like it still every day it kind of blows me away that this company became this, and I'm able to do this every day. Because when I first started, it was going to be a side thing. It's like I was saying, how I was like, yeah, I was going to work in another toy company, just do this on the side. So, to go from like, and it's like, yeah, we just celebrated the 6-year anniversary of the company, not the line, but I formed the company in 2019. And to think about, it's like, wow, 6 years already. It doesn't feel like that long, but it's like we've done so much. And I think about, we put out over 100 items. We put out a vehicle. I started this company in my basement, in my G.I. Joe room. I had like a big toy room, and it was my G.I. Joe room. And, I started it down there, like just working every night on character designs. And then I had my first office. And then we got to the point where we outgrew that one because we had so much more product coming in, and I needed a bigger office. And I come here, and it's like, this office is awesome. I love this place. So seeing that, I'm like, wow, like, you got to like, it sounds cheesy, but it's like, you got to pinch yourself like, whoa, this is so cool. To come into like the conference room here and, see like the depth of everything that I've been putting out. I'm like, wow. And it's like every, couple months, I got to get it like a new shelf because we're getting new product in. It's, you're losing space here. So yeah, it's awesome. Just seeing like, just product flying out of our warehouse each day. And, you're like, oh man, like I hope this does well. And all of a sudden, like things sells like crazy. And you're like, wow, this is awesome. I go, like I was in our stock room in the back here. I was like, whoa, it's pretty empty in here. Like, this is kind of crazy. Glad we got that secret series coming. We gotta stock this thing back up. So yeah, it's like awesome. I'm so thankful to like the people that the fans, the customers that buy this stuff, because man, you guys have made this possible. And I'm just glad that you guys like what I'm doing. So hopefully I can keep doing stuff that people like. I look at what the Horsemen have done. It's like they've been around for 25 years, and I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that's got to be crazy to think of, like, to the point where they can make a coffee table book because they've had a line that's been around for 10 years. I'm like, that gives me like the motivation to kind of come in and like do this. I'm like, I want to get there. Like, I can't wait to say we're doing a 10-year coffee table book. Like, that is absolutely awesome. So, I'm just not to sound cheesy, but it's just like, I'm, giddy and thankful that this has worked, and, I get to do it every day.
And truly living the dream.
Yeah. It's like, I'll meet people and they're like, oh, like I went, I had like a hockey injury, so I was going to physical therapy, and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" I said, "Oh, I run a toy company." Like, a toy company? That sounds really cool. I'm like the best. Like, so it's fun to like be able to like say that. Like, yeah, this is what I do.
Amber, did we have a super chat come in?
Yes.
Okay.
From Curtis, Todd McFarlane said that he can't sell a wave of only female figures, but Bobby did. Does that mean Bobby is better? Winky face.
No, it doesn't mean that I'm better. Look, I remember him saying that, and when I hear people say stuff like, I'm a very competitive person. So, it's like, I love Todd and what he's doing. It's impressive, but I was like, I bet I could do that. And I was like, I think, yes, it's like when I was at Marvel, we always talked about the female figures being peg warmers. It just kind of happened that way. And, but I think it's different. It's like when you have like, kind of comic book characters and leotards that aren't super popular, that aren't the Black Widows. Yeah, it's like because they're not well known. I looked at it like I have something new. I'm not beholden to 40 years of history or cheesy leotard costumes. I get to do whatever I want. I get to create something, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. And, when it came to the female characters, I said, I want everyone to fall in love with these female characters. I don't want them to be peg warmers at all. I want the guys to love them. I want the women to love them. I wanted really, really just great characters. Like, you look at them and it's great. And then you read their backstory and you love them even more. Yeah. So someone like her, she's my favorite. She's my favorite character that I created. I could remember being on, there's by the office here, there's this bike path that runs for, 20, 30 miles, and you can go all the way to Connecticut. And I would take that ride a lot. And I remember like riding my bike, thinking of her. And I kind of came up with her and her backstory to the point where I had to stop and get out my phone and start taking a bunch of notes to remember the story. Because I didn't want to like do this 2-hour bike ride and forget the whole story. Yeah. But, and then, so it's like, yeah, I did the series of female characters, and I did Pandora, Eclipse, and Kill Switch, and then some basic troopers. And it's like, you try to think like, okay, well, and it's an unfortunate thing, but, thinking back to my time at Marvel, it's like female figures didn't sell well. Ethnic characters didn't sell well. But it's like, I didn't necessarily believe that. And I said, I think you just need to do a good character. So I said, I'm going to do a series of females, and I'm going to have ethnic females, and it's going to be an all-female wave. So it's like, Pandora, she's Irish. Eclipse is a mix of Native American and Ecuadorian. And, Kill Switch is a Black female. So I was like, I think this is going to work. And sure enough, it's like they all sold out. It's like the Eclipses we have left from Series 3 was a reissue. Like, we had to reissue her. We reissued Pandora. I'm contemplating reissuing Kill Switch. It's like she was like the sleeper of the line. Everybody loved her.
Yeah,
she sold out really fast.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, if I don't do, if I don't reissue Kill Switch, I'm probably going to do another one. And then it's like, then I introduced Gemini, and it's like she sold out super fast. So it's like the female figures have done incredibly well for me. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep doing females. Now, I do have this wild idea for a female 3-pack, hot take over here, that I'm going to possibly show at the DFW panel. So we'll see. It's a female 3-pack that's maybe more geared to the guys, but we'll see. It's something that I thought up, and I was like, oh, maybe that'll work. But we'll see. But yeah, I again, it's not something that I'm not going to sit here and say I'm better than McFarlane. He's been around forever, and I look up to what his company does. I just think that if you believe you could do something and you think you have a good idea, just try it. Maybe it'll work. Now, if I had done that for Series 3 and they didn't sell well, I mean, I wouldn't have done Gemini. I wouldn't have done others. I would have been like, okay, well, I tried it. It really didn't work. So,
right.
Yeah.
They're killing me over in the comment.
I figured I'd tease them. I'd let people, I like teasing everyone, let them go crazy a little bit.
Well, first it was like, are you going to get Praetorians back in? And then it was like, are we going to have a special edition for this show or for this show or for this show? And then it came up, are we going to have a special edition for IshCon? Well, Purple Gang Gang is pretty big in this area. So now everybody's like, are you going to have a purple something for this? And then, so then you came down here and we've got, you talk about the 3-pack for the women. And so now it's bikini 3-pack, swimsuit edition, wet t-shirt contest. Since you said it was for the guys, they're just going crazy over there.
Yeah, I like teasing because then they start throwing out ideas, and I laugh to see who's close and how most of them are just so far off.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I have heard you talk about a line possibly called Street Force.
Yeah.
Are we going to do that? Is that something that's possible?
See, I talked about it, and then people weren't sure if I was joking or if I was serious.
Yeah.
And I'm joking, but I'm serious. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm working on it. Maybe it's already in production. I don't know. Maybe DFW panel. I don't know. But I like to let people kind of speculate. Okay. I know what I'm doing. All right. So
speculation is out there.
Yep. So I like to keep everyone kind of on their toes, thinking about what's coming next.
All right. I've also heard that you like fantasy kind of characters.
I do.
And any thoughts on doing like a fantasy kind of line?
Probably not. Okay. I love fantasy. I'm an uber Lord of the Rings nerd. I'm not afraid to say I love Harry Potter also, but I like, if a movie has dudes with swords, I'm sold. You got it. Out there in the hallway over there, I got a whole wall full of all Lord of the Rings swords. So to me, it's like, I would absolutely love to do a fantasy line. It's like, Kingdom of Heaven, one of my favorite movies about the Crusades. Robin Hood, Kevin Costner, Robin Hood. Oh man, I do that all day. But
that's awesome.
When I talked about the whole fantasy thing, I don't want to say I got in trouble for it, but it caused a stir because I was ribbing the Four Horsemen a little bit because they were doing that exclusive military figure for Toylanta.
Yeah.
So I was kind of just ribbing them. It was a total joke. Before anyone gets upset, it was a total joke. Those guys are my friends. Total joke because I saw them, do it, and I was like, "Hey, man, coming into my lane over here." I was like, maybe I'll do my own fantasy line next. But it was all like, just having, a tongue-in-cheek kind of conversation about it. What they're doing, they're the best at.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
They're the absolute best at. And they've been doing it for so many years. It's like if I were to come in and do a fantasy line, it's like you're so far behind the pack that it's like it's not just an uphill battle. It's like climbing Everest like by yourself. Like, no thanks, man. Those guys are already like on their way down as you're trying to go up. So
mm-hmm. There isn't a really good line out there of steampunk fantasy.
I've thought about that because I was like, I try to think of like, well, Valaverse can't just be Action Force. It's got to be other stuff. Now I'm not in a rush to start something new because I love what I'm doing with Action Force, and I don't want Action Force to suffer because I'm spread too thin working on an unproven
other
line.
Stuff. Yes, absolutely.
But you want to look. You want to look what is. That's an important thing. It's like if you're starting a new line, you got to see your competition. You got to see what's out there. You don't want to get into a crowded sandbox you know, and just show up with your shovel and your pail and just be like, hey, can I come in here too? It's just like, maybe go find your own plot of sand and somewhere where people aren't digging. And it's like, yeah, steampunk is something that I've always loved. You know, it's a cool genre. There's other things that I would love to do. You know, a friend of mine does a 4-inch Cowboys line. You know, he said he'll never do 6-inch because he's too invested in the 4-inch line. But I'm like, man, I'd love to do 6-inch Cowboys, but you know, I don't know if the market's really big for Cowboys. You know, it's like I love pirates. Well, the market's not big for pirates either because other people have tried it. So, you know, what's the spin on it? Now, I will say this: the new faction I'm going to introduce in Series 6, I hope will be a game changer. I hope it's like one of those things where it's like, wow, I didn't see that coming. So, but again, it's still action force based.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I could, man, if I could do something like I mentioned Robin Hood, it's like I would love to do a 6-inch Robin Hood Prince of Thieves line. But you're dealing with actor likenesses and, you know, movie lines, and the movie's so old at this point. But it's like I would love to do that. I don't know if it would sell, but I'd love to do it. You know, something about the Crusades, but the Horsemen have done Crusades figures, and it's like they're great. So it's like I just don't know what I would do. It's sometimes I think maybe it's just better just being a fan. Just be a fan. Just enjoy the stuff other people are doing, you know, and just see.
Keep steampunk back here because there's nobody doing it, and I love it, and I would just grab them all.
You know why nobody's doing it? It's because it's expensive. Because steampunk, it's like all that deco, all that tooling. Like, you know, you look at steampunk stuff, it's like, you know, crazy detailed stuff all over. You know, there's a guy I follow on Instagram. He's almost like Mad Max steampunk, like times 10.
Oh wow, yeah.
And the stuff he makes his own costumes, and I'm like, this guy, I was like, I can make a whole entire line based on what this guy creates. But I look at it and it's just like there's like 300 hits of deco on that thing. I was like, you know, you have to you can't like dumb down steampunk.
No,
steampunk
you cannot.
Very like in your face, very detailed.
It is. Yeah. Just keep it in the back of your mind. So we've only got, I'm really good about 9:30 due to the fact that I get up at 4 a.m. on Friday morning. So forgive me. I am going to jump ahead for a little bit. Bobby, we may have you back on because like we can talk all night. I mean, really,
you let me know
all night. Yeah. I do want to talk Legions Con for a few minutes. You hit on it a little bit. I've heard you talk in other places about it. Legions Con, you said, was like different, and that you in your thing you said that, you know, you were walking around and you saw something that was unlike other things that you had done or that you had seen, especially with the customizing portion of it. So I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit and you know, kind of give me your first year at Legions Con. Number one, first year setting up. Sales went good for you?
Yeah, it was. I think it was our second highest sales for a convention, which is crazy because we had this tiny little booth. It was, you know, small show, but it was just like it went crazy. It like took us all by surprise.
Great.
Yeah.
And you're coming back next year. So when you hit the floor, like when you had time to actually go look around, like I know you purchased some customs that you saw, which I love seeing those on your show. But talk to me about you walking around. I know you came up to where I was and I kind of showed you my stuff. Like, what did you think about all of the customs, all of the stuff?
Yeah, it was like I'd never been to Legions Con. I didn't know what to expect. So, you know, do a bunch of shows. You're just kind of expecting the same thing. It's just vendors, some companies. So, like, I got to Legions Con and I was like, where are all the vendors? Like, where's vendors selling like product and vintage toys? And I didn't see any of that, but it was like all these customizers. And I was like, this is crazy because they took a line and a devoted fan base and made a show that celebrated that line. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. I never expected this. So, you know, and then like walking around, like everyone was great. Everyone was talented. You know, it's like I couldn't even find a booth where I was like, that guy needs work. Everyone was awesome. And I was like, this is amazing. And like the fact that, you know, the horsemen and the fan base, like everyone was just so welcoming of just creating this, you know, I don't like to say the word community, but it's just like, it was a community. And like, it really, really shocked me, but in such a good way. Cause I was like, this is so cool. Like absolutely cool. And it's like, you know, it's like, I've known Eric for years, and it's like, I see him, you know, talking, you know, with some of those guys about some of their customs and stuff. I'm like, this is awesome that the creators of the line are talking with, you know, guys making customs of their stuff. I'm like, this is awesome, you know. And I said in my video, it's like, yeah, I wasn't big on customs and I didn't know how to feel about it, because it's like, well, you know, I intended my figure to be the way it is when you buy it. But seeing what people create, it's amazing. Yeah, and like I bought many customs while I was at the show. And like, and I was saying on my podcast and stuff for weeks after, I was like, that was such a cool show. Like, yeah, the bonus was we killed it in sales. And like, that's the other thing. It's like, you know, what Action Force is, a military-based line, and then what Legions is doing with fantasy stuff. It's like, you wouldn't think that a military line shoved in that show would do good at all. And it was like, even at ZoloCon last year, like the Horseman crowd for some reason loves Action Force, and I think that that's great. So we had a line like the first like 4 or 5 hours of the show, like it just never let up, and we just kept selling and selling and selling. And I'm like, this is cool. I never got a break. But we moved a ton. Like my trailer was empty on the ride home. It was absolutely empty. And I'm like, this is like wild. Like the fact that we had this super successful show, and I got to see this show that it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before, but I loved it. I loved every second of it. You know, it also a bonus that it was, you know, in my neck of the woods in Jersey. Yeah. So, you know, I said to you know, to Joe and Jeremy, I was like, please tell me you can fit me in, hopefully with a bigger booth for next year. And like, they're like, absolutely, we got you covered. And I'm like, cool, because I'm gonna have an exclusive for the show. Like, you know, yep. Almost every show I'm doing this year has an exclusive.
Yay, that's awesome.
And
we cannot wait.
There will be an exclusive for IshCon.
Yay! All right, you heard it here first. Yeah. Exclusive for IshCon.
So yeah, so you know, I'm so psyched, and I'm glad that like Legions is the last show I do of the year. Like you kind of end with that bang is fun.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Really quick, I want to let's give this Pandora away. You guys have stuck around and been great. You have about 3 seconds while Amber pulls this up to hashtag Yay Pandora. Bobby graciously has given us a exclusive dressed in black Pandora that we are giving away tonight. Bobby, thank you so much. We truly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I'm showing 52 entries and we have 63 people here. So let's spin it and see who's going to win tonight.
All right. Who's it gonna be?
It's my favorite part.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That is awesome. Okay, if you will get in touch with me, I am in the Cabal on Facebook, or you can find me at aslan.creations on Instagram, and message me, and I'll get your information to Bobby, and he will get that sent out to you. Congratulations. So excited. Again, Tanya McCoy in the Cabal, or aslan.creations on Instagram, and we will get your information to Bobby, and he will get that shipped out to you. Now, Bobby, we like to end the show we just did not have enough time with you. But we like to end the show with a couple of questions that we. The first one is something that you actually may answer very well because of your knowledge going into it. And then the second one we'll actually end the show on. So, Amber, do you want to ask these last two questions?
All right. So the first one is, how much do you think the dragon from Four Horsemen will be?
$550.
Good answer.
All right.
$550. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Because you know
And
what it
last-
has to go into.
I was thinking a little higher, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to go a little lower. Yeah.
Good answer. All right. And last question, Amber, what do we got?
What is one thing that you could tell us that you haven't told anyone else?
My wife probably doesn't want me talking about that, but I am terrified of spiders. I'm terrified of spiders. Yeah. Well, I thought of two answers for this. Both were kind of embarrassing, but yeah, and I'll tell both of them. So yeah, spiders, like something about a spider. Like, listen, I'll hold bugs. I've eaten crickets at ZoloCon for my kids. Like, I don't mind, other things. Dragonflies are like my favorite insect. Like, but there's something about a spider that is just creepy, man. They're just creepy. And my daughter, she's afraid of them, so she'll see one in the house and she'll start crying, "Daddy, is a spider." And I'm like, I guess I have to kill that thing, but it's like, let me find a big long broom so I could be as far away from it as possible. But yeah, there's just something about spiders. I'm a huge baby when it comes to spiders. So watch now, people are going to know that, and they're going to come to shows and they're going to throw like fake rubber spiders at me and freak me out. So I just ruined that for myself. And then the other thing that people don't know, really, like only like my wife knows, and she man, does she rib me for it, is I can't swallow pills. I can't swallow pills. I think like I have like big tonsils and I got a big tongue, so it's just like I just can't do it. Like maybe like a little like Advil, but forget it, man. If you have like a big capsule or like some like big like migraine medicine, forget it. I'm tapping out. I'll just sit there in pain. And it's like embarrassing because like when I got my wisdom teeth out, or when I got like my deviated septum fixed or something like that, they're like, "All right, we're gonna put you on these pain pills." I'm like, "You got it in liquid?" And they're like, "What?" Like I always have to ask for like liquid. Like the multivitamin that I take every morning is liquid. And it's like I feel like such a I'm like a 5-year-old, because I can't swallow pills.
Oh,
and it's
goodness.
like I do it, and my wife, she'll like laugh at me while I'm like, "You got to stop looking at me while I'm doing it." She goes, "I can't, because it's such it's like a car accident." She's like, "Watching you do it is like painful. I just have to like keep watching it." So I'm just digging myself a hole here. But yeah, spiders and pills, my biggest weakness.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, just out of high school, I worked at a Girl Scout camp for the summer as a camp counselor, and we had to tell the kids, because otherwise we would be in all the tents or all the cabins all the time killing all the bugs. So we had to tell the kids, if it's smaller than your foot, you can handle it. If it's bigger than your foot, then you go find somebody with a bigger foot.
Yep.
And then they can come and help you take care of it.
That's what I tell my daughter. I'm like, she'll cry, and I'll be like, "McKenna, look at how much bigger you are than that bug."
So, and that worked out well until on the side of our cabin one day, there was one that was about yay big. And I had to go get somebody with a bigger foot to kill that sucker.
No thanks. I'm running. I'm running away. Nope.
Oh my goodness, it was crazy. So, but yes. Now, do you want me to scare you a little bit?
No.
No?
But okay.
You sure?
Maybe. Okay.
So you go outside when it's warm, because obviously you're not going to go outside when it's cold up there. When it's warm, you go outside with a flashlight, and you put the flashlight up to your nose so it shines out at your grass or area. And you're going to see these little green, like emeralds in the grass and in the trees and in the underbrush. And those are all spiders.
For real?
Yeah.
So wait, but
Honestly.
only if you hold a flashlight to your nose? You won't see if you just hold it like down?
No, because you can't, it's not in the angle that you're going to be able to see it. You have to hold it up so your eyes are looking down into the light.
Well, I'm super intrigued, but also like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, I'm gonna do it.
It's really a cool thing. I mean, at night
Okay.
when it's warm and all that stuff, go outside, and that's why they call it spider sniffing, because you have to hold the light up here to your nose so you can be able to see all the emeralds in the ground.
Interesting. Well, me and my son, we get a lot of frogs where we are, especially in the summer. Like, you go out at night when the sun goes down and the grass is like, you see like some dew on it, and you'll just shine the flashlight. You see like tons of frogs. So next time we're out there, I'm just gonna put the flashlight on my nose and freak my son out.
Absolutely. It's very interesting. If you've never done it, it's a really cool thing to do. We used to do that with the Maximilian, never going outside again.
That's horrifying.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. Okay. Bobby, thank you so much.
No, thank you guys. This was my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
We had so much fun, and definitely gonna have to have you back again. Need to do a video. Oh, can't do a video of it because you have to see it with your own eyes. It's different. If you are, it's Thursday night, so tomorrow night is Off-World. Saturday, we got a bunch of shows coming on. I know Curtis is going live at noon, and then is Saturday Day Live coming on, Amber?
Yep, SDL will be on.
SDL, and then
Purple Gang Gang.
Purple Gang Gang Saturday night. Sunday, we have Legions, Latin Legions, and that's going to have Rob Zamora on it. Oh, I can't wait to see that. And then Sunday night is Shooting the Shelf. And then remember that Mythic Conversations will not be this week because Jeremy is traveling. So Art by Ackerman, yeah, that's noon. Yep. And then Saturday nights, 3 POA. Is that when you go live?
Yeah,
Bobby?
we're every other Saturday, so not this Saturday, but next Saturday.
Next Saturday? Okay. Yep. Next Saturday night, you want to catch Bobby on 3 POA. Mm-hmm. And please, please, please go to YouTube, look up Valaverse. You want to watch these videos. They are so cool. Lots of great information. And we watch them every week. We are so excited to see whenever they come out. So we are excited to watch and see what you have to say, Bobby. So I guess we're waiting until sometime soon to hopefully get the surprise series. And then
in a couple weeks, I'll announce the ZoloCon exclusive.
Okay.
And then just before the show, I'll announce the secret series.
All right. So you're going to ZoloCon, and then you're going to, where else will you be, Bobby?
After ZoloCon the following weekend, I have a small show up in Massachusetts that I've been doing. And then after that, that's March, April, nothing in April. May, I have the Shop the Curiosity show that the Horsemen do also.
Yeah.
And then May is also IshCon.
Right.
And then June is DFW. and then I forget when the other shows are. But then it's like I think I got a lull, and then September I have New Jersey Toy Con, and then Legion's Con after that.
Legion's Con's November. Yeah. Okay. Catch Bobby Valaverse. If you see him, say hey and tell him that you saw him on Legion's Ladies. All right, Bobby. Thank you so much. And everybody, we will catch you guys in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I have to think about who's coming on. I did not verify that before today, so I cannot tell you, but we will post it and let you and keep you guys updated on who is going to be on next. Again, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you all later.
Night.
Bye.